The night was silent when the cross first cast its shadow, not upon the hill of skulls, but upon the heart of man. Every soul born of dust would one day stand beneath its weight, and the heavens would ask only one question: will you carry it, or be crushed beneath it? If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Matthew, chapter 16, verse 24. The words are not a suggestion. They are a summons, not to comfort, but to crucifixion, not to admiration, but to obedience. You will know the cross when the world turns its face from you, when silence answers every prayer, when obedience costs you everything you once called holy. That is where discipleship begins, not where it ends. In Gethsemane, the oil press groaned under the weight of surrender. There the Son of Man fell to his knees, and the earth trembled as heaven waited for his answer. Not my will, but yours. The prayer that divided eternity in two. Now the same voice echoes across the centuries, searching through the ruined temples of men's hearts, asking again, will you drink this cup? You cannot wear the crown until you have felt the thorns. You cannot speak of resurrection until you have walked through death. For the cross is not a relic of the past. It is the altar of the present. It stands at every choice between your will and his. The cross is the furnace that burns away pretenders. It reveals who kneels for glory and who kneels for God. The nails were not just driven into his hands. They were driven into your excuses. The blood that fell was not only his. It was the price for every defiance in you. And yet still you stand before it, wavering. Still you whisper prayers without obedience. Still you seek victory without surrender. But you cannot rise while clinging to the dust. He who would come after me must take up his cross daily. Luke, chapter 9, verse 23. Daily, not once. For the weight of the cross does not lessen. The heart grows stronger beneath it. Every disciple who followed him learned this truth. The path of salvation is a battlefield disguised as love. Peter wept when his strength broke. Thomas doubted when fear spoke louder than faith. John stood at the foot of the cross, not as a hero, but as the last who refused to flee. They were men as fragile as you, and yet, in their breaking, heaven was revealed. For grace is not found in the unbroken. Grace is born in the cracks where surrender seeps through. And so the voice calls still, not from pulpits, but from wounds. It calls in the silence of your failures. It speaks in the ruins of your self-made altars. It is the whisper of a crucified king who asks for nothing less than everything. You who walk through the valley of compromise, you who carry the name of faith but not its fire, listen. The cross is not a burden to escape. It is the key to endurance. That I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings. Philippians, chapter 3, verse 10. To know him is to suffer with him. To follow him is to bleed where he bled. To love him is to stand unarmed before a world that despises holiness, and still forgive. There will come a night when you are pressed as he was pressed. Your Gethsemane will not have olive trees, but it will have silence. And in that silence, the weight of obedience will crush every false thing within you. The cross will not ask for your opinion. It will demand your surrender. You will tremble. You will question. And heaven will wait, not for your perfection, but for your yes. For the cross is not carried by the flawless, but by the willing. And now the voice comes again, not as thunder, but as breath. What do you still carry that he already bore upon his shoulders? Lay it down, before it becomes the weight that buries you. Because the cross does not simply stand at Calvary, it stands at the gate of every decision you will ever make. We are pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair. 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 8. The cross will press you. The world will mock you. Your own heart will betray you. But the Spirit will not abandon you. In the furnace of obedience, faith becomes steel. In the silence of surrender, the old man dies, and the new rises with eyes of fire and hands still scarred, yet steady upon the hilt of endurance. For the cross is not defeat. It is the weapon of resurrection, the altar upon which death was slain. The march does not begin when you are ready. It begins when you are broken. When your prayers fall to the ground unanswered, and the silence of heaven feels heavier than sin itself. That is where the road of the cross begins, in the ruin of pride, beneath the ashes of self. For the way of Christ is not paved in glory, but in blood and resolve. He does not call the strong, he calls the surrendered. And those who answer must burn their maps, for the path ahead is carved by obedience, not by comfort. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame. Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 2. Joy beyond shame, victory beyond agony. He walked through the fire, not around it. And now you, child of dust and covenant, you must walk where he walked. Through the mockery of the crowd, through the sting of rejection, through the slow death of self-will. Do not look for sympathy. There is none upon the narrow road. Even the disciples slept while the Savior wept. Even Peter's sword was dulled by fear. Only obedience remained awake that night. The cross teaches through contrast, the glory of God revealed through the humiliation of man. Every wound you bear for righteousness becomes a mark of inheritance in the kingdom. Every tear you shed in secret becomes a weapon sharpened against despair. You will know you are near the summit when your flesh begins to bargain with faith. When the whisper comes, surely there must be another way. But there is no other way, for the cross does not share its throne. It demands everything, or it gives nothing. The world preaches crowns without cost, victory without virtue, salvation without surrender. But heaven writes no such gospel. The true gospel is a crucified king, and a call that pierces the soul like iron through bone. It is finished. John, chapter 19, verse 30. Not because he was defeated, but because he left nothing undone. So then, what of you? Will you leave the work half-forged? Will you walk halfway up the hill, then lay down the cross? The stone will not roll away for those who quit at Golgotha. You say you love him, then follow him to the end. You say you believe, then believe when belief costs blood. The cross is not a symbol to wear, it is a sentence to live. In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. Romans, chapter 8, verse 37. More than conquerors, not because we escaped the battle, but because we were slain within it, and yet did not yield. Understand this: faith is not forged in the comfort of temples, but in the wilderness where no applause is heard. Discipleship is not measured by the songs you sing, but by the scars you carry when the singing stops. You cannot share in his resurrection until you have shared in his crucifixion. You cannot speak of life until you have tasted the death that brings it forth. Every trial is the hammer. Every loss is the forge. Every temptation is the fire testing the metal of your soul. The cross is not the enemy. It is the anvil upon which heaven makes men holy. So ask yourself, disciple, when your strength fails, will your faith still stand? When the world mocks your obedience, will you still kneel? When the storm rages and your hands tremble under the wood, will you still whisper, "Not my will, but yours"? Because obedience is not proven in peace, it is proven in pressure. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was as drops of blood falling to the ground. Luke, chapter 22, verse 44. The Christ who sweat blood in Gethsemane now looks to see if you will endure your own garden of testing. The same Spirit that strengthened him in that hour now waits to strengthen you, but only when your will breaks upon the altar. The furnace will roar, the night will stretch long, but when the dawn comes and the stone rolls from your obedience, you will see that every flame served a holy purpose. You were not destroyed, you were refined. You were not forgotten, you were remade. For the cross does not end at death, it begins where death loses its claim. The hill does not rise to meet you, it resists. Every step up Calvary is a war between what you want to keep and what God demands to burn. The cross digs into your shoulder, the world calls you a fool, and even your own heart whispers that obedience has gone too far. But there are no shortcuts to resurrection. You cannot rise from a tomb you refuse to enter. You cannot wear a crown you fear to bleed for. The hill that breaks the proud is the same hill that builds the faithful. He humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even death on a cross. Philippians, chapter 2, verse 8. Obedience unto death, not partial, not convenient. Full surrender until flesh and pride dissolve into dust. This is the narrow ascent, where your strength ends and his begins. The cross carves silence into the soul. Every complaint becomes a wound you must silence. Every doubt becomes a stone you must climb over. And when your knees finally buckle, when the splinters of obedience pierce your hands, do not curse the weight, for it is shaping you into something the world cannot crush. Each bruise, each tear, each trembling breath is a line written in the story of endurance. He was not crowned in gold, but in thorns, a reminder that glory in this kingdom is forged through pain. The vine does not bear fruit until it has been pruned. The grain does not become bread until it has been crushed. The oil does not flow until the olive has been pressed. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. John, chapter 15, verse 5. The cross is the pruning. The cross is the pressing. The cross is the place where all that is not rooted in him must die. Look to the right and left. See the thieves. Both bore the same wood. Both felt the same pain. Yet one cursed and the other believed. It is not the suffering that saves you. It is the surrender within it. You will not see angels upon the hill, only silence. You will not hear applause, only the echo of your own breath. But in that silence, heaven is near, closer than your fear, stronger than your shame. If we suffer, we shall also reign with him. 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 12. Suffering is not the end, it is the coronation. The cross is the throne of the conqueror, and yet still you hesitate. Still you cling to what cannot be carried beyond Golgotha. Your pride, your vengeance, your secret idols of comfort, they will not survive the climb. So again the voice comes, sharp as judgment, steady as grace. When the gates close and the trumpet sounds, will you be found standing with the cross or buried beneath it? Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Revelation, chapter 2, verse 10. Faithful unto death, not until convenience fades, but until the last breath. For the kingdom is not won by those who visit the cross, but by those who remain nailed to it until the old man dies. The world will say you are wasting your life. They will not see the invisible victory, the moment your will bows and heaven rises within you. That is the unseen crown, the one made not of gold, but of endurance. Your hill may not have a name. It may be the battlefield of temptation, the long road of forgiveness, the quiet suffering of faith unrecognized. But the Christ who walked his Calvary walks beside you in yours. And when you reach the summit, when the nails of obedience have done their work, and every breath feels like fire, lift your eyes, because just beyond the agony stands an empty tomb, waiting to bear your name. If we have been united with him in his death, we shall also be united with him in his resurrection. Romans chapter 6, verse 5. Death was not the end of his story, and it will not be the end of yours. The cross you carry is not your curse, it is your path to immortality. The same hands that were pierced for you now reach to lift you through the fire into glory. So endure, soldier of Christ. Endure until the last doubt is burned away. Endure until obedience becomes breath itself. Because every moment you carry the cross faithfully is a strike against the dominion of darkness. When the final breath comes and the world fades to silence, you will not fall into defeat. You will fall into the arms of the one who conquered death itself. The tomb was never meant to hold him. It was meant to show the world what could not be contained. The same stone that sealed death became the first witness of eternal life. And so the cross that once broke you now becomes the door through which you rise. The weight that crushed your shoulders is the very thing that gives your spirit wings. For the man who carries his cross unto death will find that it was never meant to bury him, but to lift him. Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen. Luke chapter 24, verse 5. The stone has been rolled away, not by man, not by angels alone, but by the power that commands the dawn to rise. The grave could not hold him, and neither shall it hold those who follow. You who once trembled at the hill now stand upon it, eyes lifted toward the open sky. The scars on your hands are not shame, they are covenant. The wounds upon your heart are not defeat, they are remembrance. The cross has become your armor, the blood your seal, and the silence your strength. We are buried with him by baptism into death, that like as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life. Romans chapter 6, verse 4. Newness of life, not a promise postponed, but a power alive now. Every breath of obedience is resurrection in motion. Every act of surrender is a stone rolled from the tomb of the soul. You will know that you have truly risen when your hands no longer grasp at what was lost, but open to what is eternal. When fear no longer governs you, and peace, quiet, immovable, divine, becomes your crown. The cross has not left you empty. It has emptied you of what cannot enter heaven. And in that sacred emptiness, Christ dwells as King. Behold, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. Matthew chapter 28, verse 20. The war within you is not yet over, but victory is no longer uncertain. The same power that raised him from the grave now beats in your chest like thunder before dawn. You have been refined, not erased. You have been broken, but only to be rebuilt in light. Every step you take now shakes the kingdom of darkness, because every step bears the sound of obedience. And when the final trumpet sounds, when the heavens split open and the earth gives up its dead, you will not rise in fear. you will rise in recognition. For the voice that calls the nations to judgment is the same voice that once called your name in mercy. The Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. The trumpet will not sound for the proud, nor for the comfortable, but for the faithful, those who bore the cross without applause, those who walked unseen, yet unbroken, those who carried love through the fire and never let go. And when the skies blaze with holy fire, and the armies of heaven ride forth in white, you will understand. Every tear was armor, every wound was prophecy, every prayer was iron in your soul. You will stand among the redeemed, robed in light, crowned with endurance, your name whispered by the one who called you worthy. He who overcomes shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Revelation chapter 21, verse 7. Now rise, soldier of Christ. The cross you carried has become your banner. Lift it high in a world still bound by fear. Let them mock, let them doubt, let them turn away. You have walked through fire and found the tomb empty. The world can wound you no longer. The grave has no claim. You belong to the risen King, and his mark is carved upon your soul. So when the night falls and the silence returns, remember the hill, remember the blood, remember the voice that said, "It is finished," and whisper back through the darkness, "It is begun."